各位好，欢迎大家来参加今天下午的第3场论坛，同时也是今年 TCCF 创。
Welcome to the third session and also the final session of TCCF. We have 2 speakers for the session. First of all, we have Rob Chong, Research Manager at Google, and also we have Sandy Chen, Head of YouTube Large Partnerships, GCN at Google YouTube. So they will be talking to us about channels and also content, as well as their markets, and how do you grab the attention of global viewers. We will have 20 minutes for a Q&A session at the end of the program. And for those of you watching online, if you have any questions, please raise them using Slido. Without further ado, let's first of all invite Research Manager Rob Zhuang at Google to talk about the trends of YouTube video trends, audience viewing behavior. Hello? My name is Rob. I work as a research manager. I'm responsible for consumer insights and behavior at Google Search and YouTube. I'm very happy to be here today to share with you some of our insights. We will have 2 speakers this afternoon. We'll talk about the trends for content in the post-COVID era. I would like to uncover the what. What are consumers interested in Taiwan? And while we're trying to export our content, what is it that we export? And then I'll turn it over to Sandy to talk about, for content creators, how do you harness YouTube to reach out to the world? Before I go into my presentation, let me share with you some of the higher level changes. 2020 is an unusual year. The pandemic has shifted consumers' behaviors. In the past, we felt like the world of the internet was all about quantity. However, for Taiwan, we're seeing an addition of 2.4 million online users using new tools to learn, to consume financial services for entertainment, and also to use new tools such as delivery services. And we're seeing new behaviors come from these consumers. And this trend is expected to continue into 2021 to 2022. And we call this the new normal post-COVID. How about for YouTube from 2019 to 2020? If we compare the numbers and look at the daily active users between the 2 years, the reach has grown significantly. And if we look at Taiwan or around the globe, watch time on YouTube has grown by double digits. That is to say, the pandemic has brought about new online traffic, and we have been able to attract more users on YouTube, and they're more engaged. After we talk about the higher level trends, I'd like to share with you 2 dimensions. First of all, I'll focus on supply and demand. I'll first talk about demand. So what are the Taiwan viewers watching on YouTube? And secondly, from the supply side, for Taiwan-generated contents, who are the consumers of our content and how are we growing? So we'll talk about supply and demand. First of all, demand side. What are Taiwanese viewers watching on YouTube? YouTube is the second largest search platform in the world. Users in Taiwan or around the world depend on YouTube to fulfill needs and entertainment in life, to answer some of their questions. So you may be curious, YouTube is used diversely. And which parties or entities provide the content on YouTube? Actually, mostly it's user-generated content, UGC. And we've been trying to develop a community of content providers. And right now, we have a community that has about 5.2 million users that generate content. And then there is PGC, for example, variety shows or news programs, content related to finance. And about 30%, it contributes for 30% of our watch time on YouTube. And then content comes from music creation or distributor companies, and there are also aggregators or MGNs that upload their content. So this is a brief overview of the landscape. And now let's talk about the different types or genres when it comes to content. First of all, the music genre. YouTube is the largest musical database in the world. Watch time for musical or music content is, I would say, the top of the list when it comes to watch time contribution. But in terms of the types of music, first of all, we see official music videos. For example, for Jay Chou's music video, Won't Cry, he was able to reach 10 million views. And this is a way for users to explore new songs, but also an important way for record labels to market their content. And then there are cover songs. For example, there may be amateur singers or professional singers that are making cover songs. And then we see how concerts or music programs, as well as daily life content, coming in third and fourth. For example, for Twice, on their channel, they have these content that is a compilation of the content of their concerts and also content from their daily lives, because they're trying to build connection to their fans. So when we talk about music, it's not limited to music per se. And then when we think about drama as well as films, maybe you can't watch the entire drama or the entire film on YouTube. However, there are related content that is extremely popular on YouTube. For example, to the left, you see the highlights of drama or films that are released onto YouTube by the creators, and through a VOD model, they can help viewers go back to their content after watching it. And for VOD, video on demand, they can use this content to acquire new users. And there are also interviews of the actors and actresses in a drama series. And it is also a way to build up the status of these actors or actresses. And then for content creators, they will look into films or series using different methods. For example, Someday or One Day is a Taiwanese drama. And a lot of YouTube content creators, they look at the so-called Easter eggs in the Taiwanese drama and to provide new perspectives to viewers, and also talk about how they feel about the series. And then let's talk about PGC, professionally generated content. on television programs or in news channels, we're seeing a tremendous growth of these type of content on YouTube. It may be variety shows or talk shows or programs related to current events. We're seeing significant growth in that regard. And then let's talk about lifestyle content. This is usually contributed by users, so user-generated content. According to a survey done between Ipsos and Google in 2018 and 19, more than 70% of the YouTube users are using YouTube to meet the demands in entertainment and also in life. And there are some users that use YouTube to learn. Take myself, for example. I am watching YouTube videos to set up my fitness and also diet programs. So I spend 3 to 5 hours a week watching this type of content. And YouTube is the second largest search platform. And within the Z generation, they're actually seeing YouTube as their largest source of tool in search. So they go to YouTube to search for the materials that they want. Last but not least, gaming content is also growing significantly on YouTube as a category. Because of the pandemic, I would say gaming companies have accelerated their growth. And on YouTube, the content related to gaming has grown significantly too. They may be computer games like Minecraft or mobile games and other types of games. So users are here for entertainment. They may watch replays of VOD or live stream. They may not be able to be like other professional YouTubers. However, they still use YouTube to a large extent. And you think when you're live streaming gaming, that's very much like live streaming. But actually, according to our data, in terms of the watch time for gaming, if we compare VOD to live streaming, VOD has 3 times the volume as live streaming. So on for different players or content creators, you can think about under the gaming category, how do you meet the needs of users and how do you harness their behaviors? After talking about demand, let's now move on to talk about supply. So for Taiwan-generated content, who are the people watching? How have we grown? You may be quite curious. I want to let you know, actually, content generated in Taiwan is growing rapidly in the world. And if we look at the growth rate, if you look at the left-hand side, we see growth of Taiwanese viewers and growth of overseas viewers. And we see that the growth rate of overseas viewers is twice than that of the growth of Taiwanese viewers. So who are these viewers? Where are these viewers from? Who are consuming Taiwan-generated content? The top is Hong Kong. Culturally or geographically, or in terms of collaboration between content creators, Hong Kong viewers, they really like Taiwan-generated content. And then Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, places with a large Chinese-speaking population. Viewers like to watch Taiwanese variety shows or financial talk shows or news shows. And then to the right, you see the United States. Viewership growth in the United States is also quite significant. And what types of videos and content are favored by overseas viewers? I talked about a lot of verticals, PGC, UGC, TV, series, and drama. But from the perspective of overseas audience, what do they like? The x-axis is the watch time of different types of videos. The y-axis is the growth rate. To the upper right-hand corner in the first quadrant, we see high volume. And also we see high growth rate of the verticals. Be it UGC or PGC. For PGC content, for example, news programs or shows and TV drama, we're able to transcend the linguistic barrier and expand into the overseas market. A lot of the times you may feel like the majority of the viewers are from Taiwan. However, I have to tell you that content generated by Taiwanese creators is quite competitive. But is there still room for growth in terms of the content generated in Taiwan? If we compare content generated from Taiwan and from China, actually, China's content is 100% exported. And a lot of the viewers are from Taiwan. But in Vietnam or other Southeast Asian countries, actually, Taiwan does a better job in exporting our content. If you look at the white part here, you'll see that these are the regions that Taiwan can work better in to export our content. And if we look at the exact numbers, the watch time of Taiwanese content compared to Chinese content, the growth rate of Chinese content has grown by 1.5 times than that of Taiwanese content. And they're very competitive when it comes to TV drama. In terms of the quality and the quantity, they are doing a very good job. And Sandy will talk to you about more details. In terms of the division of work, in terms of content, in terms of marketing, they are quite professionalized. In terms of operations, they have global and local operations. And at the same time, they have this kind of system to help them break into new markets. That's why Chinese-generated content has grown so rapidly. And then when it comes to UGC, user-generated content, a lot of the categories are knowledge-intensive, or there is content that is about local or folk lifestyles. For example, there's a YouTuber named Li Ziqi who tries to showcase her lifestyle in a very rural village in China. And there are also content or programs about gourmet. So I've shown you what has happened in the past on YouTube. Let me summarize quickly. First of all, viewers are depending on YouTube to consume diverse visual content. For PGC and also UGC content, both are diversified. Some may feel like for news programs or variety shows, it may only be limited to Taiwan, but I have to say that PGC generated in Taiwan is attracting the attention of overseas viewers, and you need to be confident because the quality that we provide is very high. So that was the what. Let me now pass it on to Sandy to talk about the how. So with that, let me have Sandy come up.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Sandy. I am so happy to be here at the final session. Thank you for staying all the way till the end. As Rob mentioned, in the 20 minutes that I've been given, I want to talk about how YouTube can help. When you think of YouTube as a content generator, what is on your mind? You often think, well, you're probably trying to attract and vie for the attention of viewers. But actually, you should also think about the issue in a more comprehensive manner. YouTube is actually a global platform, and it gives everybody a voice and allows everybody to showcase themselves to the world. It doesn't matter what kind of content you are putting on YouTube. I would like to take 3 key questions that people usually ask me and answer them for you. The first question is, if my content goes on to YouTube, is it going to affect my television ratings? I think before I answer this question, I would like to tell you that if you look at the number of people who are online users, probably 10 out of every 10, 9 of them will visit YouTube once a day at least. This may seem quite impressive, but actually, in Taiwan, other than Google search and YouTube, you will see there's a lot of chat apps, social media platforms that actually have the same coverage. In the US, we can see over 300 OTT platforms. In Taiwan, there are also many, many such platforms. So we need to ask our question, what is something that is going to be more sustainable or make an impact? I think the only constant is the time that you can attract the eyeballs of the viewer. In the past, we had 24 hours and a limited amount of choices, but now we have countless apps, so much content. So the key question is, how much of that eyeball time are you able to capture? If you divide that time into the time people use for different kinds of behavior, you can see the following. If you take eating, other than your 3 meals a day, you also like to snack. So probably you spend around 10-20 minutes resting every day, taking a break. And you can also see you maybe sometimes have over an hour for your meals. But if you look at the amount of time you spend watching content, you probably don't have as condensed an amount of time. So it's important as content generators to think about how you can attract the eyeballs when people are using time quite in a fragmented manner. I would like to give you some data to challenge you. You all know that there is a TV show right now in Taiwan called You Mother Baker that's very, very popular. And it's actually had an incredible ratings. The ratings have been incredible, 5.55%, which is very high. However, on YouTube, you will see in a short span of 2 months, it amounted to 10 times the amount of time people watched on their in the last. So it was 10 times the amount of time. So we can see that actually, even on other platforms such as iQIYI and YouTube, it is one of the most popular shows. So everybody likes to watch their shows on their preferred platforms. This is the first thing we need to understand. Rob also mentioned that YouTube is probably the second most popular search engine. And the You Mother Baker show that I was talking about can be seen on YouTube as well as other platforms. How many people in the audience have not seen this show? Have you ever heard of the term 大美? And just from the survey alone, you can see that there are 3 kinds of viewers. One viewer number one, they don't know what you're talking about. They've never seen the show. The second one is curious. They are a little bit intrigued, and they may watch the show sometimes. And then you have the diehard fans, the third category, who watch every episode. So it's important on YouTube for you to think about the unique characteristics of the platform and to capture the fragmented times that I was talking about. When you are generating content, don't forget the formula of 3 times 3. First is everybody has 3 different kinds of time: snack time, dessert time, meal time. And I mentioned there's also the 3 different types of viewers: people who never watch, people who watch occasionally, people who are die-hard fans. So if you remember this 3 times 3 formula, you can see that the public television, they offered different ways of ingesting this TV show. They had a quick summary of all 38 episodes. This is for people who have no idea of what the show is about. They also work with content creators, where they have content creators talk about the show, what was attractive to them. And very often, people who are kind of interested will watch this kind of content. And sometimes they're attracted to watch the entire series. So today, when we want to attract eyeball time, you have to understand, first, we're fighting for fragmented time. How do you utilize YouTube to market your content so that you can capture as much eyeball time as possible? First, remember, time is limited. Time is something that's is the only thing that you're fighting for with other kinds of content. The second question a lot of people ask is, what about programs that are very popular on TV channels? Are they also very popular on YouTube? The answer is, generally speaking, yes. This question is the same as a question of whether some news is interesting to you but interesting to everyone. I think when it comes to new media, you know that very often there are personalized recommendations of what pops up on your news feed. What do you generally click through? What is your screen time? What do you like to buy? All of this is data that goes into whatever you see in your personal recommendations. So if we're talking about television channels, we know that the programming is fixed. Also, the viewers are generally the general public. But if we look at the online medium, this is something where everybody can be more personalized. You can decide what you want to watch when you want to watch. We have a 3-second rule where if a viewer doesn't find something they're interested in within 3 seconds, they will turn somewhere else. I also want to inform you that even if we're talking about the internet, there are different ways of viewing. There's transaction VOD, subscription VOD, and there's also advertising VOD. I'm sure many of you belong to one category or not. Most people probably are familiar with transaction VOD, but when it comes to subscription VOD, many content generators, they prefer this because it means a constant stream of income. And then when it comes to advertising VOD, we can see that this is the one probably where there is the most amount of users, and you're also able to see which kind of content is the most popular on YouTube. So if you're choosing what you would like to use, which kind of VOD, you need to first identify your audience. The more you understand your audience, the more you're going to be able to choose between these three models. When we look at YouTube videos, you can look at these three points of data: click-through rate, the average view duration, as well as time of viewing, how long you're watching something. For click-through rates, I think very people will probably click through something if they just see 3 lines of description. So this is the 3-second, where the 3-second rule really applies. In the YouTube, on YouTube, you actually can see a lot of data to tell you who's watching your content, where they are coming from, what countries are they from. It can also tell you what was the ad revenue, and you will also be able to see what words they searched to find your channel, and also you will be able to see what the comments are and where they stopped watching. If you have your own OTT channel or television channel, you're also able to interpret what is the difference in terms of viewership on YouTube vis-a-vis other channels. So this kind of feedback is really important for you to optimize your content. Another question we hear about is, even though I've done all that I can do, but I still cannot get more people to go on my YouTube channel because YouTube is a red ocean. Well, I think Taiwanese content, if it's produced well, it can actually be seen all over the world. And the same goes for other countries' content that is made well. Taiwanese people would also like to watch it. So you need to remind yourself that your competitors come from all over the world. YouTube has coverage in 91 countries with over 80 languages. If you look at the viewing time of Taiwanese viewers, you will see over 50% of the viewing time is not spent on Taiwanese channels. We need to follow what India, Vietnam, Japan, and Korea has done, which is we need to really try and improve our local content. In terms of size, you know that Q3 has just passed, and according to YouTube, our revenue was approximately 150 billion new Taiwan dollars, and this is a lot of this goes towards paying our YouTubers, paying our content generators. And we can see in Taiwan, if we look at Chinese content viewers, it's approximately 50 to 80 million viewers, of which Taiwan only takes probably 1/3. In Taiwan, Taiwanese programs are only viewed by 20 to 30 million people. If we look at the most popular channels, number 1, English, number 2, Indian, and Hindi, and number 3, Spanish. So we have to do a lot more when it comes to Chinese content. We can also look to China to see what they're doing to internationalize. I think Rob mentioned what China was doing. First, what they're doing is they have differentiated the various roles and type of work needed on YouTube. For example, they have dedicated people doing verticalization, and so they have people translating IP into many, many different languages, and they also know where they are most competitive and what are some of the secondary markets. During the process of verticalization, it's possible to understand for women who are between 18 to 24 years old, they like to watch shows with some romantic elements, so how to target their content towards them. In addition, in your most competitive market in China, they also will look at smaller communities, groups that they can further target. We know that even amongst the same age group, people have different preferences. Thirdly, we can see that you need to leverage shorts so that people watch shorts and then get attracted to the longer version. In Hong Kong, what they've done is they've tried to localize most of their channels, and they work with local content creators very closely. And sometimes working together is more powerful. Today, if I want to tap into the Arabic market, it's much easier for me to work with someone in Hong Kong that has that expertise, and we can work together and also share in the profits. Thirdly, we also have what is called content exchange. If I can generate a lot of content, I can perhaps work with someone else and we can exchange content. You can put some of your content on my channel and I will do so on your channel. Korea, they also use OTT, but what's interesting is they also have OTT on YouTube. What's the difference between your own OTT and the YouTube OTT? On your own OTT, generally the subscribers will only be attracted to the newer content. But on YouTube, you will probably be able to have a lot of archives where you can also offer that to the viewer. And in Korea, they do not go it alone. What they try and do is they try and work with third-party creators. For example, if I want to go into China, I will work with Chinese content creators, and not just occasionally or once, but for a long time. They also look at ways in which they can breathe new life into old content. So how can Taiwan be positioned for the future? How can we go international and attract more audiences? I think, first of all, we have to understand that YouTube is our best marketing media. And secondly, all of the consumer feedback and data is at your disposal. And thirdly, you can take your channel and reach other markets. Thank you.
Thank you once again to both speakers. Let's move on to the Q&A session.
现场的观众可以赶快想一下刚才丰富的内容，消化一下有没有问题。
So think about the questions that you have. Please put your hand up for those of you on the floor that would like to raise a question. Once again, I'd like to welcome Sandy and Rob. We took a look at the questions on Slido. Perhaps you weren't able to listen to the entire presentation, but some of the questions have been answered. And one of which is that there are more and more complete drama and also program content. So will YouTube become very much like other OTTs in which the viewers can watch complete content? How will you differ from OTTs? And what is the greatest differentiator? We differ from OTTs in the sense that YouTube does not create content itself. So we provide the hardware, the broadband, the equipment, and also a paying mechanism. So for OTTs, I don't think YouTube is an OTT. We are a distribution channel. But for each OTT platform, they may decide to use YouTube to expand their content to the world, and they can do that on YouTube. And one way is advertisement that you're all familiar with, and then they can build up channels for people to pay. So it's about $50,000 to $3,000 a month, and there's huge flexibility there, based on the level of your content and based on the value that you can provide. You can set your own price. Thank you. Roy, anything you'd like to add? And I'd like to see if anyone here has a question. Yes? As a YouTuber, I would love to talk to you more. We're a big family. When we create content, I think there are certain constraints or limits. I don't know if it comes from the platform itself or the system. Sometimes I feel like there's a lot that Taiwan creators can do to be up to par to YouTubers overseas, but because of our viewership or a subscription, and because of the environment that we are in for creators, it seems like it's very difficult to find our own uniqueness. Sandy and Roy, in your presentations, you touched upon how the data that you provide can help us become unique. However, for creators, sometimes the data makes us more marginalized, or I should say that sometimes the data may not necessarily be that helpful to us. Is this something that you've thought about? I'd like to know more about what you're asking. What are the constraints that you're talking about? Let me give you an example. You talked about analytics or data. We talked about UGC and PGC. When viewers are watching, it seems like it's very different from when they watch programs on TV channels. So I think data in itself determines the audience. So for YouTubers and viewers today, when viewers watch, they watch for 3 seconds and they don't want to continue to watch the content. And for creators, that is a barrier for us because what we're trying to present is something more than 3 seconds. But what viewers actually see is less than 3 seconds. So I listened very carefully to what Sandy was saying. It has a lot to do with catching the eyeballs of viewers, but the time span of the eyeballs, is it manipulated by the system or data? And that presents certain constraints. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. And I feel like YouTube should be more supportive of creators. First of all, thank you. This is my personal opinion. No problem. Well, when you talked about 3 seconds, you remember the funnel? The 3 seconds is only the first stop. When viewers see your icon and also title, they decide within 3 seconds whether they want to click on your video. After they click on the video, how long they'll continue to watch, we need to see from the back end data. And for subscribers and non-subscribers, we need to compare their viewing time. So for these more specific metrics, all of us here, if you take out your cell phone, you'll be able to see that there are different recommended picks for you on YouTube on the homepage. So it's determined by your preference as well as algorithm. So for creators, that is quite cruel because it's real time, it's instant. You can see in real time viewers' responses to the content that you created. So you can see. I have one more question. For OTT platforms, they may promote new series from Sweden or other parts of the world. And this is not often seen on, for example, HBO. Is it possible for Taiwanese creators to depend or to work on YouTube or Google so that we can export our content into the international market? Of course, there are more than 50 YouTubers, 52 actually, that have more than 1 million subscribers, and they don't have repeated viewers. And if you multiply 52 to 1 million, that's larger than the population of Taiwan. So many of these large YouTubers, their viewers are not in Taiwan. Thank you. Another question from the floor. Hi. And I think for some people, they spread horrific or eye-catching content, and they try to avoid the censorship from YouTube. How do you avoid that? That's a huge issue that involves many parties. We have several mechanisms for viewers. We have these these rules or regulations, and if you go against those rules, your content cannot be seen. But for some content, if it's not against our rules, it may be labeled yellow. You talk about the yellow label a lot, but that is not a kind of censorship. It's actually a policy for the advertisers. And on our platform, you also see different ways of spreading information. And we are keeping up with the times in modifying our policies and in examination to come up with innovative ways to do so. Thank you. I think we have another question from the floor. I saw a hand go up. All right, if not, let's go back to Slido. There's a question about the profit sharing system. YouTube offers content creators a profit sharing system, and then creators are paid by subscription. And YouTube is planning to work with e-commerce platforms to help them generate more revenue. So what are the details that you can share with us about that? And what are some other ways for content creators to boost their revenue? In terms of our revenue system, there are two ways for us to generate revenue. One way is advertising. So advertisers, they try to reach out to their target audience using ads, and then we also have revenue from viewers, and there are multiple ways to do that. If we look at these two categories, we're seeing a more clear division between the two categories. For some businesses, they do extremely well in advertising, but not necessarily well in building up their viewership, and vice versa. Thank you. If there are no other questions from the floor, we'll answer the questions on Slido. Something else that creators are interested in knowing is that the popular genres in Taiwan and also in different parts of the world may be different. So perhaps you could give YouTubers in Taiwan some words of advice. What kind of content should they create to appeal to the overseas viewers? I'll take that one. Based on what we just covered, we have pretty good quality content. And if we look at a user-generated content, we see viewers from Hong Kong as a majority. They love to watch Taiwan-generated content, and then there are Singapore and Malaysia viewers because there's a huge overseas Chinese market. For a lot of creators, they may work with creators in Malaysia. And by doing that, I think you get a better idea of the regions that our content is popular in. If you look at our data, it's the same as the data you as a creator can see. So from your own dashboard, you can look at the sources of your viewers. Where are they growing most rapidly? And based on current events, you can also create content that is relevant. So the back end of YouTube provides you very comprehensive data, and you should be able to get the answers to those questions. We have 5 minutes remaining. We have a question here. We talked about catching the eyeballs. You talked about snacks, dessert, and also meals. Creators may not be able to tackle all three. For the market in Taiwan, is it shorts, like those on TikTok or IG, or is it mid-length or full-length videos that are more popular? What would you recommend for Taiwanese content creators to make? Thank you for that. In terms of revenue, we would recommend at least 8 minutes or above, because then you can insert an advertisement and then you can double your revenue. So from a revenue perspective, video that is longer than 8 minutes. But in terms of consumer habits, based on the content they consume, it really depends on the kind of content that is created, because it might differ greatly. For short videos, we talked about Gen Z, and a lot of them are on TikTok. What is the difference between the short videos on YouTube and on TikTok? TikTok provides a lot of UGC functions that is integrated with music. However, for short videos on YouTube, everything that is below 1 minute is featured as a short video. So it's still quite different in terms of the function that we provide and in terms of the nature of the video. Other questions from the floor? So one final question. YouTube uses analytics and also recommends content to users or viewers. So it's a kind of market segmentation. So if YouTube does that, will you divide content into, I guess, more specific categories?
看到新的内容，你们想要
You're welcome also to answer any other questions on Slido. Please choose a question you would like to answer.
自己挑一个喜欢的。
Why don't you choose a question that you would like to answer? I think I'll answer the first question here. This question has to do with whether YouTube will have more detailed categorization of all of its offerings so that people can find what they're looking for. We actually already have some categories, but they're general categories. We know that viewing behavior is still very, very individual. Sometimes I'm watching something and then somebody recommends something to me, but maybe the viewer wants to watch something very different. Sometimes maybe I'm searching for how to tie a tie, and then I find something that I'm interested in related to that. So if you look at the analytics, you will see that the traffic for every channel is very, very clear. So each content generator will probably have very different set of analytics. Thank you. I think individualization is the key today. So just offering categories or genres is probably not going to be able to satisfy everyone, or it bucks the trend. So now we're going to take a group photograph.
离场的观众，请帮我们留下您的宝贵意见，可以填纸本的意见表，然后或是扫描 QR code。谢谢，谢谢两位。